Why vulnerability looks powerful in photography. There is something strange about vulnerability in photography. In everyday life, vulnerability is often associated with weakness, exposure, risk, the fear of being judged or misunderstood. People spend enormous energy protecting themselves, emotionally, socially, even physically. We hide insecurity behind confidence. We edit our emotions before expressing them. We learn how to appear composed, controlled, untouchable. And yet, in photography, the opposite often happens. The moments that move people the most are usually the least protected ones. A trembling expression, a tired face, a body without performance, a moment where someone stops trying to appear perfect. Suddenly, vulnerability no longer looks weak. It looks powerful. Photography has always had a unique relationship with emotional exposure. Unlike painting or sculpture, a photograph carries the feeling of reality. Even when carefully staged, it still feels connected to a real human moment. A real body, a real emotion existing in front of the camera. Because of this, viewers instinctively search photographs for honesty, not technical perfection, honesty, and vulnerability often becomes visual proof of that honesty. This is especially true in portrait and nude photography. When someone allows themselves to be photographed without emotional armor, the image changes completely. The viewer senses tension, trust, uncertainty, confidence, or longing all at once. The body stops functioning as decoration. It becomes emotional language. A lowered gaze can communicate isolation. Relaxed posture can suggest trust. Imperfect details, scars, wrinkles, asymmetry, can make a photograph feel more human, not less beautiful. In many cases, the very things people try hardest to hide become the details that create emotional connection. Part of this power comes from risk. Vulnerability matters because something is emotionally at stake. A person standing emotionally exposed in front of a camera is allowing themselves to be seen without complete control over interpretation. The image may be admired, misunderstood, criticized, or deeply connected with by strangers. That uncertainty creates tension, and tension creates emotional depth. Without vulnerability, many photographs remain visually impressive but emotionally distant. Beautiful to look at, but difficult to feel. Vulnerability introduces presence. It reminds the viewer that there is a human being behind the image, not just a subject arranged for aesthetic effect. Modern photography culture has become increasingly fascinated with this idea. For years, polished perfection dominated visual media. Airbrushed skin, rigid poses, carefully controlled expressions. But over time, audiences began craving something else. Images that felt real. Natural light replaced studio precision. Imperfections remained unedited. Emotion became more valuable than flawless appearance. The cultural shift toward authenticity changed the visual language of photography itself. Softness became strength. Honesty became aesthetic. But vulnerability in photography is not simply about revealing the body. In fact, some of the most emotionally vulnerable photographs contain no nudity at all. True vulnerability comes from emotional openness, the feeling that the subject is no longer fully hiding from the viewer. And that can be incredibly powerful because it creates recognition. People see parts of themselves inside vulnerable images: loneliness, insecurity, tenderness, exhaustion, hope. The photograph stops being only about the person inside the frame. It becomes a mirror for the viewer's own emotions. There is also courage in vulnerability. Allowing yourself to be seen honestly, especially in a world obsessed with performance, requires a certain emotional strength. Not because vulnerability removes fear, but because it exists despite fear. That is why vulnerable photography often feels more memorable than perfectly controlled imagery. It carries emotional risk, and viewers can sense that instinctively. The image feels alive, and perhaps this explains why exposed bodies in photography can sometimes appear powerful instead of fragile. Because power is not always dominance. Sometimes power is the ability to remain visible without hiding, to exist honestly despite judgment, to stand inside uncertainty and still allow yourself to be seen. In the end, vulnerability becomes powerful in photography because it transforms the image from observation into connection. The camera does not merely capture appearance. It captures the moment someone lowers their defenses long enough for humanity to become visible. And in a culture built around performance, that kind of honesty can feel almost radical.